Hello everyone and welcome to the 5th episode of Retro Horror Games Quest. Today's horror game comes in the form of an NES point-and-click adventure game from 1989. I don't know about you guys, but it's really hard for me to imagine a point-and-click adventure game with an NES controller. The game's name is Uninvited, and I would like to invite you to join me on this adventure. So let's get adventuring! Uninvited released in 1989 for the NES and was developed by Icom Simulations. The game opens up with you waking up, trapped in your car right after having crashed and lost consciousness. It appears you were driving with your sister, but she's not in the car anymore. Did she leave to call for help? Here is where you first gain control of your character's actions. It's a pretty cool opening, to be honest. But this is where the problems also start peeking at us though. This moment is timed. You have to leave the vehicle before it explodes, which means that you must understand how to navigate the UI as quickly as possible. On the one hand, it creates tension, which is a good thing in a horror game, but on the other hand, it is kind of frustrating. Not too frustrating though, they do give you enough time to figure it out, but it feels like starting a game by showing you how frustrating its controls can be is a pretty weird design decision. Upon escaping from the vehicle, it explodes! Now you don't know where you are, or where your sister went to. But it seems you have crashed your car right in front of a creepy old mansion. Of course you did. God damn it. Did your sister go inside to try to find help? Only one way to find out. Now the game truly starts. And so I shall explain the controls to you. You use the D-pad to control a cursor on the screen. The UI is separated into several sections. The game screen, which displays the world through the eyes of the main character. Your inventory, which also includes spells that you will find later on. The movement window, which contains a minimap that shows you where doors are located and was a source of some frustration during my time with the game. More on that later. The action window, where you can choose which action you wish to take next. And, well, I don't know what to name this window, but it allows you to change inventory pages, use items on yourself, and save the game, which is pretty useful. If you think this feels like too much information to have on screen at all times, and like it will be cumbersome to move around between sections, you are absolutely right. Were we using a mouse, the UI would be less of a problem, although I still think the inventory could have been hidden and accessible through the press of a button or a menu option. They try to solve this by giving you full control of the cursor. Let's see if I can explain how it works. Let's say you are highlighting the examine action in the action window. If you press up, your cursor will snap out of this window, and you can move it freely over the worldview window. If you move the cursor towards one of the other windows, it will snap to it. This does make navigation easier, but the speed of the cursor should have been a bit faster to make it feel more natural. The biggest problem in the UI is definitely the movement window. You select move to activate the small minimap located below it, and you're supposed to click on one of those white circles to access doors. The problem here is twofold. First, the dots are too small and the cursor movement too imprecise, and precision is the king here. Second, if you accidentally go past one of the circles and touch the edge of the minimap, your cursor will snap out of the movement window. It's pretty annoying. You can also click on doors in the worldview window to move around, but some doors are only accessible through the minimap. This is another bad design decision in my opinion, since it only happens in a few rooms. I decided early on that using the white circles was too bothersome and started using the worldview exclusively for moving around through doors. At some point, I got stuck in the game until I realized the movement minimap contained two other doors that I could not see in the worldview. It would have been so easy to solve this by confining the cursor in the movement minimap until the player pressed the cancel button. This is not the only precision problem that I encountered in the game though. Sometimes you have to be pixel perfect when interacting with stuff in the worldview window, to the point that sometimes I thought something was not interactable while it actually was, just because I interacted with it 1 or 2 pixels away. It is incredibly frustrating. You might be thinking right now that I am being a bit hard on the game, considering that just the fact that it is a point-and-click adventure game on a home console should have had me expecting all of these issues. And yeah, I was expecting most of these issues, but I can think of multiple ways to make them less frustrating, like confining the cursor to the movement minimap as I said before. And as for the pixel-perfect interaction, just make the interactable areas bigger. or a little bit more obvious, although I don't like that option as much because these kind of games are supposed to be, well, let's just say not easy or obvious. Another thing affected by this is how there are so many things in the world that do not look like they could be interactable, but actually are. The worst example I can think of was near the end of the game, where the game expected me to examine a slot on a door frame when the slot didn't look anything like a slot. It just looked like decoration. I actually had to consult a guide for this one, as blindly examining every pixel in every screen would have driven me to insanity with these controls. This does just not work on a home console. The slot should have just been more obvious. Alright, well, that's enough complaining about the controls. I think you catch my drift by now. I'm sure most of these complaints are redundant if you choose to play one of the mouse-compatible versions. That's right, this game initially saw release for the Mac and MS-DOS, among other platforms with varying degrees of differences. The most significant differences being the absence of music, the lack of color, and that it actually had a time limit to be finished. That sounds frustrating. Is it more frustrating than the NES controls though? Well, I guess I'll probably never know. The Mac and MS-DOS versions also had you save your brother instead of your sister? Kind of a weird change. The lack of color and music sounds interesting though, and I bet that made the game a tad bit creepier. So, let's talk about what you actually do in the game. The main things you'll be doing are exploring and solving puzzles, which can be pretty obscure sometimes, especially considering the whole pixel hunt stuff going on. Yeah, there's nothing new here. Obscure puzzles were the norm back then in these kinds of games, and I just don't like that, I'm sorry. I'm sure a lot of people out there really like that, and good for them. I am giving my opinion right here, and I have never been a fan of those. I like logical puzzles. I love puzzle games, and I love point-and-click adventure games. I just need them to make logical sense. No, I don't want them to be obvious, I don't like that either, but the pieces need to be there. In this game, they are often not. Sometimes they are sensical and are fun to solve, and I enjoy those moments, but they were buried in deep levels of frustration. In this game, you can actually pick up almost every object you find. I guess the idea here was to make it seem more immersive, because if you were in there in real life, you would be able to do so as well. Due to the controls, this just adds to the frustration though. Navigating your inventory is a slow-ass pain in the butt, and not knowing what is actually useful and what is not makes already obscure puzzles even more perplexing, considering there's a lot of unuseful objects that you can pick up. Actually, I would say around 60 or 70% of the objects you pick up are useless. Alright, let's talk about something more positive for a change. A cool thing this game has is multiple ways of killing the player. I'm sure I did not experience them all, but I did see a lot of them, and a bunch of them were really amusing. For example, imagine you find a bottle somewhere. You decide to open it, and try to use it on yourself just to see what the game would say about it. Surprisingly, the developers did account for that, and you just killed yourself by drinking poison. If you do die, you can continue playing from a few actions before you did die. So you lose maybe 5-10 seconds at most, which means it's fun just to try random stupid stuff to see how the game will react. Okay, now for a strange addition to the game, which are the spells. While exploring, you can find these books and scrolls containing spells that you can learn. The text describing the spell is often mysterious and provides clues about what the effect could be. The problem here is that these are severely underutilized and feel like if they were left out, the game would be no different. In fact, I finished the game without using some of them. Alright, but what about the mood? It's supposed to be a horror game, right? What is the atmosphere like? It's not there. In terms of mood and atmosphere, the game actually starts pretty strongly. The whole stuck in a car about to explode provides some really good tension. Escaping the car and entering the mansion offers a lot of mystery. You go through a door and there's a woman in the middle of the hall. Her back is facing you, and this strange, mysterious music loops. She is motionless, silently inviting you to approach her. Approaching her, together with creepy music, she reveals to be a ghost. Except that's not how it happens at all. You're just exploring this hall, the ghost appears, and this energetic music keeps playing, completely ruining the whole mood. I am sure the mouse-based versions of this game, which contain no music, did a better job of creating the mood. It's not that the music is terrible per se, it just doesn't fit at all what's going on. Okay, so we have a ghost. How do we get rid of it? Well, you must explore the mansion, find a book containing exorcism spells, and chant them while the spirit evaporates in a spine-tingling shriek. Except, as you guessed, that's not how it happens at all. You're supposed to find a spray labeled "No Ghost" and use it on the ghost. I wish I were joking. Okay, yeah, the whole spine-tingling shriek would have been really hard to do with the NES hardware, but this is just ridiculous. But let's move on, I guess. As you go deeper into the game, What the hell? Wait, is that a dancing puzzle bobble character? That's truly horrifying. I take back everything that I said so far. This game is horrific. So I guess the game is trying to have a sense of humor. The problem is that it just feels off. It's not funny, it's dumb, and absolutely murders the whole atmosphere. I mean, I've seen a lot of horror comedy movies that maintain the atmosphere and added comedy to it. So it's not like you can't do it at all. Do you want another example? At one point in the game, another ghost stops you from accessing a critical item. How do you get rid of it? Yeah. The most logical way to get rid of ghosts. Throw spiders at them. Genius. Alright, I would like to go a little bit deeper into the story now, even though there's not much to it. The little that is there is just generic and doesn't make a lot of sense. And because of that, I'm going to get into a little bit of spoilery territory now. So skip to the time that is showing on the screen right now if you want to avoid that and experience it for yourself. Long ago, some old man, which is literally what the game calls him, battles his disciple, Draken, in the underground passages below where the mansion now stands. He imprisoned Draken underground because he was evil, I guess? But Draken's power is too strong and the old man's soul cannot contain him here anymore. I'm guessing Draken's power is what caused the initial car crash, but I can't say for sure. In the end, you just throw Draken's casket down a bottomless hole that was just there for some reason, and made me wonder why the old man didn't just throw his apprentice down it after imprisoned in the first place. After this, you can finally save your sister, who somehow got stuck in a room. Except she's unconscious, and after trying to wake her up, literal Satan comes out of her. I'm guessing this is Draken's soul, but it's not really explained. You throw a goblet with holy water on it, and that's it. Incredibly underwhelming and anticlimactic is how I would describe the last few moments of this game. As the demon fades away, you can finally reunite with your sister, who believes everything was just a dream, and I kinda wish this whole thing was just a dream, but well, here I am making this video. Well, so that's Uninvited, I guess. There's no mood, it's ruined by the contrasting music and the horrible attempts at humor. It's not a funny game, its comedy feels dumb and out of place. And it's definitely not a good adventure game considering all the obscure, poorly telegraphed puzzles. Maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh on it, but I am not here to review these according to the standards of when they were released, but according to my personal enjoyment. If you're interested in the premise at all, maybe just play the Mac or the MS-DOS versions. I'm positive those must be better experiences. It sucks that this game took so many wrong turns. The intro sequence really made me think this is going to be something special. And hey, for what it's worth, it seems like a lot of people out there really like this game. So it must be doing something right for all those people. Unfortunately, it just didn't hit the home run for me. I give Uninvited for the NES 1 out of 5 stars with a survival horror fan required play score of... no. Yes, I can finally say survival horror fan required play score without getting lost. Try saying that 3 times fast. Survival horror fan required play score, survival horror fan required play score, survival horror... that's crap. But friends, I am really looking forward to start working on the next Retro Horror Games quest. We will be taking a look at Sweet Home, also for the NES. That game was released in Japan only, but thanks to fan translations, we can enjoy it today in English. And if you didn't know, the original Resident Evil for the PlayStation actually started its life as a Sweet Home remake. I've wanted to play that game for so long, and it was actually that game that spawned the idea for this series, so I'm hoping it will be a special one. If you're also looking forward to the Sweet Home episode, remember to click subscribe and hit that bell if you really want to get a notification when it drops. Oh, I pointed at the right place. And if you like this video, remember to click like and leave a comment, because those really help with the YouTube algorithm and will help this channel grow. And a huge thanks to my patrons, whose names you can see scrolling on the screen right now. I really hope you enjoyed this. So thank you for being scared again with me tonight, and I hope to see you back here for the next episode of Retro Horror Games Quest. Good night.